was going to start this week of podcasts by saying something like, okay, here's the menu of the horror shit shows that we have facing us. Which one do you want me to begin with? But that was a little bit too cynical even for me. Ooh. But this climate thing. Well, Joe, thank you very much. Joe Paulette, our sponsor today. All right. The United States and the crisis that we're facing, the existential crisis, the life and death crisis that we're facing, planetary heating. And it's not just humans, although we're the ones doing this, it's not just humans that are to be destroyed. It's life. Life. And I think about the Christian terrorists in this country. I realize they don't pay a fucking bit of attention to what their Bible says or what their so-called Messiah said. They look at Jesus as a punk ass who better sit down and shut up or turn white or something. You know, nobody in the Bible was white, but try to tell that to these Christian terrorists. But I can't help but think about them. Their own holy text tells them to take care of this gift their phony fucking non-existent God gave them. But if they're gonna try to impose their religious bullshit on the rest of the world for the past 2,000 years, wouldn't you think, at least I would, that they would want to live the example that they claim their toy God and their bullshit Messiah told them to do? But no! That's not going to happen. You have Christian terrorists like Joe Manchin, who doesn't give a fuck about what happens in this country or on the planet. And so many of them, I'm picking on Manchin because Manchin held the power to get this whole environmental package that Joe Biden came up with passed into law. And the fucker wouldn't do it because he is a greedy, filthy Christian terrorist. This is why I no longer say Christian fascists. I can't anymore. They're terrorists. Where was I? There was some news, last week, that even a stripped down compromise bill to address planetary heating was dead on arrival in Washington. And even that stripped down compromise was met by environmentalists and Democrats as being totally inadequate. But it would be something, just like this bill that was passed about gun safety in the Senate. Total bullshit. It's not going to reduce a single fucking death of anybody in this country. The slaughter will continue. But the people who helped engineer its passage said, well, it's a start. Yeah, it's a start that should have occurred 40 years ago. 50? But some environmentalists and Democrats and just people like me are accusing this miserable son of a bitch Manchin of dooming human life on Earth. Yeah, I'll go along with that. I've been saying that for weeks now. Representative Pramila Jayapal, Democrat of Washington, called Manchin's decision, quote, nothing short of catastrophic, end quote. But Manchin doesn't give a fuck. He lives on a houseboat, drives a Maserati, is a multi-millionaire, if not a billionaire at this point, and owns a company that continues to pump carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Jesus Christ. But the thing is, we are a people in this country struggling with inflation, pretty much exhausted by COVID, trying to adjust to changes like a woman's right to privacy no longer exists where it concerns her reproductive organs. And as a result of all of this is what I meant about, I would list for you the terrible things. You pick one you want me to talk about. But all of this stuff is resulting in so many people in this country are just giving kind of a shrug to everything. And that's probably why the fact that we are facing our own extinction through climate heating remains an issue with no political power at all. Doesn't mean shit, especially to the people standing in the way like Joe Manchin, like Joe Biden. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not going to defend Biden when he goes to fucking Saudi Arabia to try to persuade a mass murderer that we support with our weaponry to kill hundreds of thousands of people in Yemen. And when he has a political enemy chop their fucking heads off or dismember them after luring them into the Saudi embassy. And Biden is over there fist bumping this filthy fucking bum. Well, the climate campaign director for Greenpeace USA that is struggling to mobilize even its supporters now. This person says, quote, people are exhausted by the pandemic. They're terribly disillusioned by the government. And she added, quote, people see climate as a tomorrow problem. We have to make them see it's not a tomorrow problem, end quote. But Greenpeace has been trying to do that for 4 decades. Now, we don't need evidence. We don't look at the evidence. The evidence that a climate crisis is underway is everywhere. A couple of examples: the Great Salt Lake in Utah is soon going to be the Great Salt Desert. Have you seen pictures, aerial photos of the Great Salt Lake this year, last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Holy shit! The electric grid in Texas is ready to collapse because of the heat. There are wildfires all over the West right now. They just don't make the lead story in the news anymore. Have you noticed that? Fires are burning in 8 states? Who the fuck is paying attention? The news directors don't care anymore. I mean, not to dump on news directors, but they have to decide which is the more horrible story or the most horrible story. And for so many of them, it's not the end of life on Earth because of climate change. Which raises the question, why not? Why isn't it the most pressing issue? See, were I king of America, I would decree that every single news outlet had to, at least 12 hours out of a 24-hour day, talk about global warming, what we are facing, and what we had to do to stop it, and what we are doing to stop it or retard it. But see, I'm not king of America. I don't think I'm going to be either. Huh? Then you have climate refugees that are trying to find higher ground in Louisiana. Global warming has taken about 12% of the landmass of Louisiana is now underwater. Tidal floods are now swamping the streets of Miami, bubbling up through the sewer system, because Miami sits on, what is it, sandstone? Is it sandstone? very porous rock. I mean, Florida shouldn't even fucking exist, and it won't much longer. Think about that for a minute. Oh, my God. Still, and this is the part that is just terrifying. There was a New York Times Siena College poll. And just 1% of voters that were polled named climate change as the most important issue facing this country. It was way back, way behind worries about inflation and the economy, and even among voters under 30, right? The group that has been categorized as the one most energized by this issue, the figure was just 3%. 3% of the under 30 voters polled placed climate change at the top of the list. 3%, which means 97% did not. And with 1% of voters saying climate change is the most important issue facing the country, it means 99% of us, at least in this one poll, did not recognize climate change as the most important issue. A guy named Carlos Curbelo, you probably know him. He's a former Republican House member from South Florida. And he tried to get his party to act on climate change until he was run out of Congress. But he said over the weekend, quote, "This challenge is not as invisible as it used to be. But for most people, even those who live in Greater Miami, this isn't something they encounter every day, whereas their encounters with a gas pump are extremely depressing. In healthier economic times, it's easier to focus on issues like global warming. But once people get desperate because of their pocketbook, all that goes out the window," end quote. We are the goddamnedest species, aren't we? We are the goddamnedest. We have this powerful brain. We can we can evaluate, we can compute, we can observe, we can make decisions. We are unique in the mammal world. I mean, we can do all these things, and yet we look at extinction staring us in the face, the beast I talked about in the first part of the podcast, and we just sit here and do nothing. Nothing. And the vast majority of us don't even believe it's real or as threatening as it truly is. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.